In 2024, an artificial intelligence was given well, a pretty unique task.
Yeah, a completely different approach to how we usually use these systems.
Exactly. Because usually, when you ask an AI a historical question, it basically acts like a glorified search engine, right?
Right. It just scrapes the internet.
Yeah, it reads the accepted textbooks, it summarizes centuries of academic debate, and then it just spits back this very polite, very conventional answer.
Oh, a consensus answer.
Right. But the researchers working on this specific project, they tried something completely different. Instead of feeding the AI history books about the Great Pyramid of Giza, they fed it nothing but raw, hard data.
Which, I mean, that completely changes the output because
Yeah.
they used unsupervised machine learning.
No historical context at all.
None. No academic papers, no cultural assumptions, no biases. The AI was given LiDAR topographical scans, geological surveys, engineering tolerances, and astronomical alignments.
So just the math.
Exactly. It was basically a massive, unfiltered data set of purely physical measurements.
And the mission for this AI was incredibly simple. The prompt was just, who built the pyramids, based only on the numbers. So, welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're taking you through the comparative report generated by this machine.
It's a fascinating thought experiment.
It really is. We're going to look at a 4,500-year-old mystery through the hyper-rational lens of modern data analysis. And the data forces us to look at some massive contradictions.
And we should clarify up front, we aren't taking sides here.
Oh, absolutely not. We're strictly neutral.
Right. What makes this so interesting is that a machine doesn't have a reputation to protect, It doesn't care about academic rivalries or alternative theories. It just looks for statistical patterns in the source material we're exploring today.
Exactly. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because before we get into the wild geometric anomalies the AI flagged, we really need to understand the baseline. Like, classical archaeology isn't just making up the traditional narrative out of thin air.
No, not at all. The traditional evidence is actually remarkably robust. I mean, the accepted archaeological timeline places the construction around 2560 GC, right?
During the Fourth Dynasty.
Yes, under the Pharaoh Khufu. And we have extensive physical proof of the labor force, like actual tangible stuff.
Yeah, the workers.
Right. Excavations have uncovered these massive worker camps on the Giza Plateau. We've found the bakeries that fed tens of thousands of workers, the breweries, and even administrative documents.
Like actual papyrus receipts.
Literally, yes. Administrative papyrus logs that detail the daily transport of limestone blocks down the Nile.
And I recall reading about some medical evidence in the source material too, right? Like they found the bones of the laborers.
They did. And those bones are crucial because they show healed fractures and surgical intervention.
Which means what exactly?
It tells us these were highly valued, skilled workers who received specialized medical care. They weren't, expendable slaves, which is a really common Hollywood misconception.
Right, they were paid laborers.
Exactly. And on top of that, hidden deep inside the pyramid's internal chambers, archaeologists found graffiti painted in red ochre.
Oh, the gang names.
Yeah, these are the actual names of the work crews, translating to things like the Friends of Khufu.
They were quite literally signing their work.
Yeah, putting their stamp on it.
So we have the receipts, we have the papyrus, the worker camps, the healed bones, the graffiti. That is a very solid, tangible historical record of a Bronze Age civilization.
Using copper chisels, wooden sleds pulled over wet sand, and water trenches to level the ground.
Right, but here is where it gets really interesting for you listening. Because the AI processed all of that physical evidence, cross-referenced it with the raw measurements of the structure itself, and it hit a massive logical wall.
A major statistical sticking point.
Yeah, a problem it just couldn't reconcile with copper tools and manual labor.
Right. And to be clear, the AI didn't dispute the presence of the labor force. We know they were there. It disputed the mechanics of the execution.
How they actually pulled it off.
Exactly. When its pattern recognition algorithms mapped the spatial dimensions, the first glaring anomaly was the extreme geometric precision of the foundation.
The footprint of the building.
Yeah, the base. The base of the Great Pyramid covers over 13 acres.
Which is huge.
To put that in perspective, you could fit several modern football fields inside it. And yet, across that immense sprawling area, the base is perfectly level to within roughly 2 centimeters.
Okay, let me try to visualize this for everyone. It's like, imagine placing a single giant sheet of glass over an entire city block, and the highest and lowest points of that glass differ by only the width of 2 fingers.
Yes.
That level of flatness across rugged desert bedrock is insane.
It is an error margin of about 1/50th of 1%. And the AI immediately paired that flatness with the astronomical alignment.
The North Pole thing.
Right. The pyramid is aligned to true north with a deviation of only 3 arc minutes.
But wait, how do they even find true north without a magnetic compass?
Yeah.
Because true north isn't where a standard compass points, right?
That's an excellent point. Magnetic north wanders constantly due to the Earth's molten core. True north is the fixed, invisible axis of the planet's actual rotation.
So how do you find it in the Bronze Age?
To find it, you have to observe the circumpolar stars over a long period of time, track the exact invisible point they rotate around in the night sky, drop a perfectly vertical plumb line down to the desert floor, and then extend that line perfectly straight across 230 meters of uneven stone.
Just by eye.
By eye. And being off by just 3 arc minutes, which is essentially 3/60ths of a single degree, means drawing a line over 2 football fields long and deviating by only a fraction of an inch.
Okay, I have to push back on this a bit.
Yeah.
Because I look at the traditional narrative, right? Tens of thousands of workers, 20 years of continuous labor.
Right.
If you have basically unlimited manpower and unlimited time, couldn't you just iterate? You'd lay a block, it's a bit off, you shave it down with your copper chisel, you just keep doing that. Force plus time equals results, doesn't it?
That is a very common human assumption, but from a strict engineering standpoint, it is fundamentally flawed.
Why?
Because force does not equal precision. In fact, the more variables and human hands you add to a project, the more your error propagates.
Oh, like a game of telephone.
Exactly. The AI calculated the statistical probability of achieving this exactness with copper chisels, wooden A-frames, and water trenches, and found it practically impossible.
So what does it take?
To give you a modern comparison, if a team of engineers in 2024 wants to achieve that specific alignment, they require satellite positioning and survey-grade laser theodolites.
Which obviously didn't exist 4,500 years ago.
No, they didn't. And what the AI highlights, which is fascinating, is that modern construction today rarely even attempts this level of precision.
Because it's not necessary.
Right. A modern skyscraper functions perfectly well with much wider tolerances. If a concrete foundation for an office building is off by 3 or 4 centimeters over 100 meters, the building is still entirely safe. It's functional.
So it's overkill.
Massive overkill. The Great Pyramid's foundation is roughly 10 times more exact than is practically necessary for a massive building. A deceased pharaoh certainly does not require the floor of his tomb to be level to the millimeter.
So if the precision wasn't functionally necessary just for a tomb to stand up, why go through the immense mathematical headache of doing it? Like, if they were that obsessed with the physical foundation, does that obsession carry over to the actual design, the blueprint?
It absolutely does. And this is where the AI really went to work. When it ran a script simulating a 2D cross-section of the pyramid, it isolated a series of mathematical constants baked into the architecture.
Mathematical constants.
Yeah. The first major anomaly is the presence of pi.
Pi, as in the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, 3.14159.
Yes, that pi. The AI took the perimeter of the pyramid's base and divided it by its original height. The result is exactly 2 times pi to an accuracy of 0.05%.
Wait, but the pyramid is constructed entirely of straight lines and sharp angles.
Exactly. Yet the precise geometry of a perfect circle dictates its proportions.
Okay, I know classical archaeology has a counter-argument for this, though, because mainstream academics suggest that the workers might have used a rolling wooden drum to measure distances on the ground.
Ah, the rolling drum theory.
Yeah. If you use a drum with a specific diameter and you just count the rotations to measure the base, you will naturally and entirely accidentally bake the mathematics of a circle into the straight edges of the structure. I mean, I always thought that was a brilliant, simple explanation for a Bronze Age culture. You just roll a wheel and boom, accidental pi.
It is a very elegant theory. It really is. But the AI completely rejected the rolling drum hypothesis.
Why?
Because it didn't just find pi, it found phi.
Phi. The golden ratio, 1.618.
Yes. The AI algorithms found the golden ratio designed into the structure in at least 7 independent intersecting planes.
7.
It dictates the ratio of the height to the base, the specific slope of the external faces, the geometry of the triangular walls, and the layout of the internal chambers.
And this creates a massive historical anachronism, because from what I understand, phi wasn't formally documented until the Greek mathematicians came along, like 2,000 years after the pyramids were supposedly built.
Right.
You cannot accidentally create phi with a rolling wooden drum. Both pi and phi are infinite, irrational numbers.
Exactly. A rolling drum only accounts for circular geometry. Phi governs growth patterns in nature.
Like the spiral of a shell.
Yes, a nautilus shell, or the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, or even the arms of a galaxy. To build that into stone across 7 different intersecting three-dimensional planes requires deliberate advanced calculus.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say this civilization genuinely didn't have the written mathematical language for this yet. Is it possible they just possessed an incredible intuitive eye for proportion?
Intuitive geometry.
Yeah. Think of it like a master musician who can play a complex, beautiful symphony entirely by ear without knowing how to read a single note of sheet music. They just looked at it and knew the slope looked right.
Well, aesthetic intuition is a real psychological phenomenon, certainly. But when you look at the mechanics of architecture, that theory just falls apart.
Why?
Because a musician playing by ear is creating fleeting sound waves, carving millions of limestone blocks so that they converge hundreds of feet in the air to form an exact irrational number across internal and external dimensions. You can't play 3D calculus by ear.
Right, you need a plan.
You need a written mathematical language, you need standardized units of measurement, and a master blueprint. It is a deliberate mathematical signature left in the stone.
Which leads us to the data point that completely broke my brain when I read the source material.
A scaling.
Yes, because the math isn't just describing abstract geometry. The AI found that these exact measurements scale perfectly to the physical dimensions of the Earth itself.
And this is where unsupervised machine learning really shines, because it looks for global data correlations without any academic prejudice.
It just runs the numbers.
Exactly. The AI highlighted a specific scaling multiplier embedded in the geometry, 43,200.
Okay, walk me through this.
If you take the Great Pyramid's original height and multiply it by 43,200, you get the exact distance from the center of the Earth to the North Pole.
And if you take the perimeter of the pyramid's base and multiply it by that exact same number, 43,200, you get the Earth's equatorial circumference.
Yes.
But hold on. The sources mention that the number 43,200 is exactly the number of seconds in 12 hours. I had a huge problem with that.
I know where you're going with this.
Because seconds and hours are arbitrary human constructs. They originated in Babylon or Sumer long after this. Why would the physical dimensions of the planet be tied to a modern clock?
That is a phenomenal question, and it's where the physics comes in. The AI didn't flag 43,200 because of a clock on a wall. It flagged it because of the precession of the equinoxes.
Okay, what is that?
So the Earth has a slight wobble as it spins on its axis, kind of like a slowing top. It takes exactly 25,920 years for the Earth to complete one full wobble. If you break that massive astronomical cycle down, the foundational baseline numbers are all multiples of 432. The builders weren't referencing seconds, as we know them. They were referencing the mechanical wobble of the planet itself.
That is just staggering. And we have to talk about the physical shape of the Earth, too, because the multiplier gives you the polar radius from the height and the equatorial circumference from the base perimeter.
Right.
Those are two slightly different proportions. I mean, think of a ball of pizza dough.
Right.
When you spin it in the air, centrifugal force causes the center to flatten out and the edges to bulge wide. The Earth does the exact same thing as it spins. It bulges at the equator.
The equatorial bulge, yes. And this is a geographical reality that humanity only conclusively confirmed using modern satellite technology.
But it's in the pyramid.
Yes. Both the flattened polar radius and the wider equatorial bulge are perfectly encoded in the pyramid's dimensions.
It's like finding a modern microchip hidden inside a medieval wooden wagon. The technical execution just does not fit the era.
Not at all. And to contextualize this execution, the AI also analyzed structural load mechanisms, like the king's chamber.
Deep inside the pyramid.
Sitting right in the middle. It's constructed using massive granite blocks weighing up to 80 tons each.
80 tons.
And they were brought from a quarry in Aswan, which is 500 miles away.
I mean, how do you even move an 80-ton block 500 miles, let alone stack it?
The logistics of moving them is one mystery, certainly. But the engineering of stacking them is what the AI focused on. There are millions of tons of limestone pressing down on that hollow chamber.
That should collapse.
It should be crushed like a tin can. But to prevent that, the builders constructed a series of complex relieving triangles above the ceiling.
Relieving triangles?
Yeah. These granite triangles act like a wedge, taking the immense vertical gravity and redirecting it outwards and downwards into the bedrock.
Wow.
It's an incredibly sophisticated understanding of static load physics, and it has worked flawlessly for 4.5 millennia.
The Bronze Age narrative just feels smaller and smaller the more we look at the physics.
And the timeline comes under even more scrutiny when the AI factors in geological data from the surrounding Giza plateau,
You mean the Sphinx?
specifically the weathering on the Sphinx, which sits right adjacent to the pyramids.
Tell me about the weathering, because the AI flagged this as a massive chronological anomaly in the report.
Well, geologists analyze erosion patterns to determine how an ancient monument degraded over time. Now, wind and sand erosion, which is exactly what you expect in a desert.
Right, sandstorms.
Yeah, that leaves horizontal striations, like someone took sandpaper and rubbed it sideways across the rock.
Makes sense.
But the Sphinx enclosure shows deep, undulating vertical fissures.
Vertical?
Yes, that specific pattern is the hallmark of precipitation-induced weathering. It requires heavy, prolonged rainfall cascading over the stone for centuries.
But Egypt is a desert. I mean, it hardly ever rains.
Exactly. To find a climate in Egypt that produced that volume of heavy rainfall, you have to go back to the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago.
Wow.
Long before the dynastic pharaohs even existed.
So let's step back and look at what the AI is systematically showing us. The conventional narrative, the copper chisels, the Bronze Age hand tools, the 2500 BC timeline, cannot mechanically account for the mathematical precision
Or the planetary scale.
or the static load distribution of 80-ton granite blocks or the water erosion on the Sphinx. It leaves this gaping, uncomfortable void in our understanding of human history.
A huge void.
So how do we fill that void?
Because the AI is an impartial system, it's simply categorized the statistical void and mapped out 4 logical alternative hypotheses. It doesn't guess, it just lays out the remaining possibilities.
All right, let's go through them. What is Hypothesis 1?
Hypothesis 1 is forgotten Egyptian tech. This suggests the dynastic Egyptians did build it exactly when we think they did, but they possessed a highly advanced suite of technology and mathematical knowledge that was somehow entirely lost to history.
Okay, I mean, cultures rise and fall, libraries burn. Yeah. It's plausible. What's the second?
Hypothesis 2 is pre-dynastic inheritance. This theory proposes that the dynastic Egyptians inherited this specific, highly advanced knowledge and perhaps the foundation itself from an older, pre-dynastic civilization that existed in the region.
So the Egyptians of Khufu's time were essentially executing a building plan they were given, or maybe finishing a structure that was already started.
Exactly. They were the laborers, but not the original architects.
That neatly bridges the gap between the worker camps and the advanced math. What about the third?
Hypothesis 3 expands directly on the Sphinx weathering data, the Ice Age cataclysm theory.
Okay.
This posits that a global, highly advanced civilization existed during the last ice age, matching the timeline of the heavy rainfall. They were wiped out by a global cataclysm, such as rapid glacial melting.
And the survivors.
The survivors became refugees, passing on their mathematical and astronomical legacy to primitive hunter-gatherer societies, which then sparked the sudden, unexplained rise of monumental architecture worldwide.
Like a global reboot. And the fourth hypothesis?
Hypothesis 4 is the one the AI included simply because its algorithms could not logically constrain the data to known earthly parameters.
Which is?
Non-human origin. The idea that the intelligence behind the mathematical constants and planetary dimensions was never human to begin with.
Oh, come on, aliens. The AI is actually suggesting aliens built the pyramids.
No. The AI isn't suggesting little green men with lasers. It is simply stating that when you filter out all known human technological capabilities of the era, the remaining data profile does not match any known terrestrial civilization.
I see.
In data science, if earthly parameters fail, the system leaves an open category for non-earthly origins. It's just a placeholder for an intelligence we don't currently understand.
As an analyst, looking at this comparative report side by side,
Yeah.
how do we balance this? Because a classical archaeology, despite totally failing to explain the mathematical execution, has actual physical receipts. They have the bakeries and the bones. These 4 alternative theories perfectly explain the math, but they require us to believe in massive historical blind spots. Entire eras of advanced technology vanishing without a trace. Which of these requires the smallest logical leap?
You've hit on the crux of the modern archaeological debate. We have a scale that is completely unbalanced.
Right.
The mainstream theory has undeniable physical evidence of the labor. We know human beings were there, eating bread and moving rocks. But logically, the hand tools theory completely fails to explain the mechanism of the execution. It fails the calculus.
And the alternative theories.
The alternative theories fill the technological gap. They provide a mechanism for the Pi and Phi logic, the Earth proportions, and the Ice Age weathering. But they lack the physical artifacts. We haven't dug up the advanced tools.
The only physical artifact the alternative theories really have is the mathematics frozen in the stone itself.
Exactly. What the AI gives us is permission to admit that the mainstream textbook answer is scientifically incomplete.
It's missing a huge piece.
Yes. When you compare ancient mathematical knowledge to the physical capabilities of hand tools, the contrast is glaring. The cultural impact of this evidence should be profound. It forces us to ask if our linear understanding of human progress, from caveman to modern engineer, might actually be a cycle of rises and falls.
It really is an incredible journey when you step back and look at the whole picture. I mean, we started this deep dive talking about copper chisels and wooden sleds, and we ended up analyzing a structure that encodes pi, phi, the Earth's polar radius, and the equatorial bulge, all wrapped in a foundation so flat it rivals 2024 laser technology.
It strips away our cultural biases. It demands that we look at the mechanics of our own history objectively, as you said.
So for you listening, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on all of this data, but pushes it just one step further into the unknown.
Okay.
If this structure really is a deliberate message, a message written not in hieroglyphs, but in the universal, unbreakable language of mathematics and planetary physics, who was the intended recipient?
A message in a bottle?
Yeah. Were the builders just flexing their knowledge for their own era? Or did they intentionally build a time capsule out of 2 million blocks of solid stone, knowing it would outlast any global cataclysm?
Waiting to be found.
Waiting thousands of years for a civilization, perhaps one with artificial intelligence in 2024, that was finally advanced enough to measure it and read it.
It forces us to rethink what a legacy truly is.
It really does. Think about it.